Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the inn. You know, I'm a very firm believer that everyone has a story to be told. And sometimes you need to hear it. Now, with no clickbait involved whatsoever, I titled this video Humble Beginnings, or perhaps not so humble, because, well, now is probably as good a time as ever to get into the meat of things. So tonight, for this little rant, we have our beer, we have our drink. Sit down, grab a smoke, grab your drink, whatever you prefer, and let's rant a little, shall we? Oh, Guinness. So, as I briefly mentioned on TikTok the other day, this channel, this whole purpose got started 3 years ago, little over 3 years ago now. The woman you see on the screen is my child and her mother. Not her egg donor, of course, but her mother. And we need to put this story into context. So, 10 years ago, I moved up here to Idaho due to serious health conditions and was, at the time, fighting Social Security and was not able to hold a full-time job, both not only in physical health but also for the sake of fighting Social Security. And having just ended a pretty rough relationship a couple months prior to that, I was in a pretty rough spot, and I met the woman you see on this screen. And we met. I hit her up on Meet Me, believe it or not, and we decided. We were texting back and forth. I had tried meeting her for a week or two. She fucked me off, and it was a couple days before Christmas because I had invited her to my little brother's birthday party. And this random stranger I met on Meet Me, right? Hey, let's meet up and hang out at my brother's birthday party. Ooh, no. And we had met a couple days before Christmas. I was walking my bum ass down to the gas station down and around the corner from my parents' house when I had moved up here. I moved up here with my folks. I was on the couch. It was, I was a fucking bum, man. Bum through and through. And I met her. When I met her for the very first time, actually, I didn't know I walked right, but she was putting up Christmas lights on Main Street, apparently. And I had walked right by her, didn't recognize her at all. I was just, head forward. And, I'd gotten into the gas station with my little brother, and she was like, hey, you want to meet up or whatever? And, she set me up. I was like, yeah, sure. I'm right here at the gas station. And, no, man. I was in a pair of jeans, a pair of fucked up work boots, and I had on a bright yellow, canary yellow chap. I had a bright canary yellow jacket on. And the minute she walked through that gas station door, I was like, woo! Goddamn. Well, you are a lot better looking than your pictures. So needless to say, we ended up meeting up later that night. And we drove down to one of the gas stations in Twin Falls, and we parked there, and we were there for, 3-4 hours. And I says, look, I've been through X, Y, and Z with these relationships. Like, I'm at a point in my life where, like, I'm tired of just being the stepping stone, I'm ready to settle down. I'm ready to have kids. I'm ready to start life, and of course, and she was 18 at the time. I was 18, well, we're 5 years apart, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, I was 23. Excuse me, my daughter was a year old. I was still in contact with the mother of my daughter around that time, roughly. And, I laid it out to her. I was like, look, I'm tired of fucking around. I want kids. I want a family. Like, I know what I want. And I laid it out real blunt like. She apparently liked what she heard, because later that evening we went back and did the boot scoot and boogie. And then the following morning I met her sister and her mother and did the walk of shame home, because it's a small town and she lived not too far from the gas station where I'd met her at the time. And we kind of kicked it off from there. We began dating, and she bought me smokes. And that was it. And that was it. The rest is, the rest is history. We from that point forward, for the next almost 7 years, we dated pretty seriously. The first three and a half years we were together, and then the latter half we became engaged. We were at that point seriously contemplating, talking about marriage. There's a lot that happened in those 7 years, and it's a lot to go through in this video. But without going into too much detail, somewhere around the middle of that timeline, she started getting on medication for her mental health. And without being a prude, she used to be what's the term I'm looking for here without being dinged by YouTube? She used to squirt. And around the time of getting on this medication, whenever she orgasmed, she squirted, and around that time she got on the medication, right? And there were a lot of hard conversations that needed to happen that I was too embarrassed to talk about, and I would like to blame it on age. I would like to say we were both young and stupid, and really, she was the only one that was young and stupid. I was young and stupid, but she was young and stupider, and I don't mean that in an insulting way. I mean that in a I knew better way, right? And I did. I noticed something was, of course, physically wrong with her. Things weren't the same, and I was too embarrassed to go, hey, what's going on? And instead, I let it brew for a couple months, this change in our sex life. And I became very, what's the word I'm looking for here? I became very self-conscious. And around that time, I decided to open up the relationship. I was like, look, you're not doing the thing no more. Let's try and spice things up. Maybe that'll help fix the problem. She, agreed to it very reluctantly, mind you, very reluctantly. And we'll unpack a lot of things toward the end of this video, I promise. But I want to get this out because despite it being embarrassing for her, it's far more embarrassing for me as a man with having had these lessons learned. And that led to a snowball of, so opening up the relationship and doing the whole polyamory thing led to a whole other mess of problems. But to summarize it, towards the end of the relationship, I was trying to see other women, whilst with her, again, with her approval, but reluctant approval, and that's kind of the important part. And I will openly advocate complacency is the biggest relationship killer to anyone, to absolutely anyone. And it's, specifically the men watching this, but The reality is that complacency is what drives women off. So she left. She left. It was July 1st. July 1st, she walked in the back door where my desk and computer and shit were. And she sits down and says, "We need to talk," as she's sitting down. So, of course, I spun around and gave her my full attention. And she says, "I'm done. We're done." And, of course, I immediately started getting all shaky and paranoid and like, what the fuck, what's going on? Prior to this, she had been very, very distant. Our sex life had dwindled down to all but about once a month, if that. In fact, I recall vividly, laying next to her at night and, trying to, get her in the mood, to which I would be very brutally told, "Go take that in the shower," right? I mean, embarrassing for me, right? Like, and just put me in my fucking place. And I was paranoid, I was scared, and I started crying, blubbering, being a fucking pathetic mooch. She said, "Look, you and the girl that you have living in the living room with us, you two need to leave so I can pack my shit with my mom and go." And of course, I reluctantly left with the other female that was living with us at the time, the other girlfriend. And man, like, everything got turned upside down. Everything got turned upside down. A lot of things were going through my head. And I mean a lot of things. 7 years, chat. I need to make this clear. 7 years is no small amount of time with anybody. Okay? But the reality is that I was fat. I was broke. And I was a fucking loser. Okay? I had no direction. I wasn't going anywhere. I had no masculine frame to speak of. When I first met her, I told her what was going to happen. I says, "You're getting off of the birth control. You're doing this. You're doing that." I was very in charge, despite my lack of authority to be in charge, if that made sense. My personality, I would argue, was very different when we first met versus when we ended. Okay? And I fell into the trap of complacency. Okay? For 7 years. And I'm not going to get into great detail, but Idaho is a very Republican state. And if you guys live in places like Utah or Idaho or, Arizona, okay, Texas, most jobs don't look down on, don't look down on. Most jobs don't approve of felons. So I was a felon. I had limited work history at the time, aside from construction, right? Pretty general construction, cement laying, roofing, painting, that sort of thing. So I was young. I had a felony. Nobody would hire me. I was fighting Social Security. And I was a bum. And for 7 years, she paid the bills. For 7 years, she paid the bills. She paid for the insurance in the car. She put gas in the car. She paid for not only her smokes, but also mine. Ooh. Very cringe. She had paid for but she had paid for the court fees for when my daughter's egg donor got back involved with the picture and all of that. She paid for everything, right? She did damn near everything. Like, my shoulder's fucked because of, I believe it's about 9 surgeries now I've had on this shoulder, if I could talk. So I can't, by doctor's orders, I'm not supposed to lift above 5 pounds with a shoulder, whatever. I mean, life goes on. You have to do what you have to do anyways. But she was mowing the lawn, bro. She was mowing the fucking lawn because it was, and still is, difficult for me to push a lawnmower and to do most things with this arm. it's hard to have sex. I mean, the surgeries I've had and the health issues I've had have affected all aspects of my personal life. But regardless, she grinned and bore it, grinned and bared it. Um, and she left. She left. Well, hello there, Archimedes, my little lover boy. So when she left, I I didn't know up from down, man. I did not know up from down at all, even a little bit. Madam Mim, you care to join us? Mim. I didn't know what was up, what was down. She, of course, moved her and all of her things out of the house that we were living in, which you can see in the picture. And I had to figure out a way, a way of maintaining the cost of this house. Because of course I was a bum. I had no income. I had no money. I had no nothing. I mean, I had a part-time job doing security and shit, but that was contract work, and even then, I mean, the money I made was, I mean, I made $50-$60 a night sometimes, and that was really about it. It wasn't anything. And needless to say, I lost the house. Around that time, the egg donor took back my daughter, took me back to court. And because I was a bum with no license or vehicle, I had no way to fight her in court, so she, of course, won full custody. So I lost my fiance of 7 years. I lost my home. I lost my daughter. I lost everything. Everything. Everything I knew. All the comforts of having smokes and having a roof over my head and having someone to lay next to at night. You know, having regular sex. Having some semblance of family. Everything I knew was gone. And I had to figure out from ground zero who I was. Now, I think one thing that a lot of you can get familiar with is the fact that after a certain amount of time with someone, you start attaching yourself to that person. For all intents and purposes, I was her husband. At least in my head, that's what I called myself. Right, I was her husband. We were engaged. We were trying to have kids. I was her man. Right. And all of a sudden, when I wasn't these things, I had to detach myself from the scenario, right? Because that scenario no longer existed, and now this is just left. And who the fuck am I? You know, I'm sure. Well, not I'm sure. I have some friends who have recently-ish went through divorces and have struggled with that same issue of identity. I don't know who I am now. Like, I have a small inkling, sure, but I'm so wrapped up in being his wife. I'm so wrapped up in being her husband. I'm so wrapped up in being the provider. I'm so wrapped up in being the house mom that, you know, when he leaves, when she leaves, I don't know who I am. And I believe one of the first videos that I came, and I'm almost fairly certain, on Success Chasers was the channel. Jordan Peterson was the gentleman I came across. And it's funny looking back at it now. I was in a scenario of being in a very unstable mental spot. I was very suicidal. Very suicidal. I had relapsed. I was not in a good spot at all. I wanted one of two things: either to get my family back, to get what I knew of what my family was back, or to just end it. That was it. It was night and day for me. Very clear. And it wasn't a pity thing. It wasn't like, oh, if you don't come back, I'm going to kill myself. It was just something in my head. If I can't have my family back, then there's no point in me being here. And it was a very dark place. And Jordan Peterson on Success Chasers was one of the first videos I came across. And in that video, and I don't remember the whole thing, mind you, it was 3 years ago. I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, right? and I'm paraphrasing here, but in this particular video, Jordan Peterson says something along the lines of, if you're lost and you don't know where to go, it starts with baby steps, and it starts with making your bed. Did you make your bed today? Right? And that really struck a chord in me. Like that just dug in real deep, and I continued to watching, following through the video. And Jordan was ranting in his videos. And he says, look, if you can make your bed, then you can make your bed and brush your teeth. If you can make your bed and brush your teeth, then you can make your bed, brush your teeth, and do the laundry. And if you can make your bed, brush the teeth, and do the laundry, then you can make your bed, brush the teeth, do the laundry, and make breakfast, and so on it goes. And what that translated into was that your progress compounds itself. And make no mistake, the things that you do every day become little, they start out as little things, but they become very big things very quick. For example, you might see the bed behind me. I make my bed every day, ironically. Prior to my ex leaving, I didn't make my bed, ever. I got up and flung the covers off, whatever. And it's minuscule, right? What the fuck is making your bed, Ironbeard? Well, I'll tell you. Because the habits that you perform every day shape you into who you are. The habits you do every day shape you into who you are, whatever it is. Whether it's waking up and making coffee and then going for a run, whether it's waking up, going for a run and then making coffee, whether it's waking up and reading the newspaper whilst having a cup of coffee and then going for a run. Whatever it is that you do every day is no small thing, in fact, because when you do something every day, it becomes a very large and permanent part of your life. And having been in a very lost and depressive mind state, I clung to anything that gave me any kind of direction. And I started doing Facebook Live videos. And it was at that moment that I realized I fucked up. What can I do to be better? And more importantly, and look, no bullshit. Let's be honest with each other, chat. You learn your hardest lessons through pain. Bar none. Your hardest lessons are learned through pain. And I had one very large dilemma on my hands, and that was that the woman I loved left. And unlike any other woman prior to her, this one's invested years of her time into me. She didn't leave, right? She could have left. She didn't have to sleep with me. She didn't have to agree to be engaged to me. She didn't have to agree to being in a boyfriend-girlfriend scenario with me. But she did. She dated a fat, broke loser. And I didn't realize what the green flags and the red flags were at the time, because she has her own handful of red flags as well as a great many green flags. But we'll get into that later. But one thing that occurred to me was that this thing is missing, and I have to get it back. So my journey of self-improvement began very quickly with, what can I do to get her back? That's all I cared about. Of course I cared about my daughter, but I cared about my daughter at the time in a roundabout type of way. And that roundabout way was, you're a part of my family. What can I do to get you and your mom back? And the self-improvement began with very selfish intentions. Very selfish intentions. I wanted to get her attention. That's what it was. I wanted to get her attention. And at first, after a couple months, that very quickly faded. But initially, I wanted to grab her attention. I wanted you to look at me, grab you by the face and look at me and go, I want you to see this progress that I'm trying to make for you. I'm not doing this for me. I'm not doing this to be a better dad. I'm not doing this to be a better man. I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this to improve myself to the point of functioning for you and only you. And needless to say, it didn't work, right? But it rung a gong in my head at 29 years old. Every relationship I've had up until this point has failed. Every woman that I had ever been with, save for my daughter's egg donor, had either left, dumped me, and or cheated on me. And that took a huge toll on, my self-esteem, right? Like, legit. And of course, no one ever told me, the solid advice that is, if you're in your 20s, don't focus on dating at all. You should be focusing on yourself and your money and your health. But that wasn't a conversation that anybody had ever had with me. So I went through my 20s looking for love and trying to start a family that I didn't really ever have because I was never close to my family. And on it goes. Okay. I had no direction. I had nowhere to go. I had nothing. All I knew was that I had to get my ex back. I found Rory over on Love Chat. I found Jordan Peterson on Success Chasers. I found Entrepreneurs in Cars. In that Jordan. I found Jordan Peterson on the Success Chasers channel. I found Rory with the Love Chat. I found Rich Cooper with Entrepreneurs in Cars, and then I found Fresh and Fit with the Fresh and Fit podcast. In that order, and for no particular reason at all, Jordan Peterson popped up on my YouTube. Now, just to clarify, if I can. I'm watching videos, chat. Don't mind me. So, this pops up. You see this on my screen. Okay. I have always used YouTube as a platform for music. Okay. So, we'll go over here to favorites. Okay. I've always used this for a platform for music and nothing more. I wasn't using it at the time for learning any skills, how to tape, how to roof, or anything like that. It was just there for the music and music only. Because I'm very particular about my music. I'm very specific on the songs that I like and that sort of thing, and the genre. So I don't really fuck with Spotify or anything like that. That kind of stuff's too random for me. It doesn't. Sirius Radio, right? I don't mess with any of that. And oddly enough, one day out of the fucking blue, here comes this Jordan Peterson video that pops up, and I read it, and from point A to point B, over the next 3 months, I watched every, and I mean every, single video of Jordan Peterson on the internet for the next 3 months, all day, every day, all day, from the moment I woke up till the moment I went to bed. All I watched was Jordan Peterson, his rants and raves, a very little bit of World of Warcraft, and it was a lot of videos. And I put together graphs. I mean, I'm sure my ex saw a bunch. I had notes everywhere in my office area, just of topics to talk about, of things that really hooked me, of things that really grabbed my attention and really got me thinking, got the wheels turning, right? And over the course of 3 years, here we are 3 years and change later. The goals shifted from what can I do to get her back to how do I deal with her being gone. They shifted from what can I do to improve myself versus what can I do to help improve other people, right? A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I was a minister, licensed and ordained. Being on the autism spectrum now, me and people don't get along so well at all, not even a little bit, truthfully. It's very hard for me to make friends. It's very hard for me to be social. It's very hard for me to get along with everybody. I tend to get along with a very specific niche of people, right? And in that autism ADHD mindset, it was hard for me to get a hold of people. I was very comfortable in a back of the classroom setting. And for whatever reason, and I'll not get into religion and politics on this as much as I can help it, but the good Lord had a calling for me, and it was in ministry, and it was in leadership. And I learned a lot in my leadership classes, in my seminary classes, and I ended up losing my license, believe it or not, because my bishop at the time, it was a non-denominational church, by the way. It was a non-denominational faith, non-denominational church, that sort of thing. And my bishop at the time of me losing my license, because you can't lose an ordainment, he agreed with the mother of my daughter taking my daughter away from me. And I told him to go fuck himself. That's basically what it boiled down to. So between that and then calling some other friend of mine a deacon, I had a very young friend, a young male friend, who was interested in faith and was confused and had no direction. At the time, he was really clinging to me for like guidance. And I know that's a silly thing to look back on now at 32 years old. I mean, I was in my early 20s. What the fuck did I know, right? But at any rate, this kid clung to me, and I appreciated that, and I was helping him into the faith, into his faith, the best I could. My bishop didn't like that too much. He goes, "Well, why did you call him your deacon?" And then between that and then him saying, "Oh, well, you deserve for her to take your daughter away," like I was like, "Okay, you know what? Get fucked," and that was it. So, but for a short time, I was called to ministry. I was called to leadership, and then here we are again, many moons later, and it sprung that gear up my ass, and the Jordan Peterson, the love chat, the Rich Cooper, right? It really dug its heels into my personality, and it really dug its heels into my lifestyle at the time, because I needed some kind of grounding. I needed somewhere to go and something to do. And I ran into these channels, these very red pill channels. Andrew Tate, right? That sort of thing. And I didn't like what I heard initially, because it was a lot of accountability. And I agree with this specific sentiment, which Andrew Tate, and I paraphrase here, but I don't believe in anxiety or depression. Right, and this is an unpopular opinion, but I don't believe in anxiety or depression. I don't believe that you need to be taking medication for most things. That's its own rant. But if you have to take a medication to keep yourself normal, then you're not normal, nor should that be normalized. I agree with that sentiment. I also agree with the sentiment that being depressed or having anxiety is normal. I don't think it's normal. I don't agree with that. I think that's an excuse for a lack of accountability. Right? When I get out of the shower, I can't see my dick. That's a problem for me as a man. So I can either go, "Oh, I'm depressed, I have anxiety," or I can take the initiative and go, "Look, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to make sure I can see my pee-pee when I get out of the shower every day," right? And once you start taking accountability for your actions and for the things that are going on, all of a sudden that depression and anxiety goes away, right? And in these channels, there was a lot of things that I didn't like hearing, because it was a lot of holding up a mirror, right? I remember watching one of Rory, with the love chat, one of his first videos that I watched on his channel was, how to get your ex back. I watched all them videos. And at the time, it didn't make any sense to me, because it was a lot of, in order to get your ex back, you have to move on. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, I can't move on. That's why I'm watching this shit. I don't know how to move on. I love her. What do I do with myself? We have to move on. Okay, well, how the fuck do I do that? It was a lot of keep yourself busy. Okay, with what? What more can I do? I'm working. I mean, at the time I wasn't, right, but I'm in my head. I'm like, okay, well, I'm working. I have hobbies. Like, what more do you want me to do? How does this help me get over my ex? And in that time frame, I really realized two things. First of all, the key to my success was honing in on myself. And this is a lot of red pill to swallow at this point in time for some of you. But I promise, once you swallow it, it'll settle very well in your stomach. There's times in life where you have to come first. Not your kid, not your girl, not your man, not your parents, not nobody, but you. There's times where you have to put yourself first and remain first. And that was one reality that really hit me like a hot brick. And the other was that I need to share this with people. Like, I've suffered from a lot of social anxiety all my life, and it's not even anxiety, it's just I have no fucking filter, and I don't care if you like it or not. Autism, I'm really hard at communicating sometimes. I run around in circles, I over-explain things, I never shut the fuck up. And so, it's real hard for me to make friends. It's real hard for me to, get a posse together and have a group of groupies, right? And I really needed to share this shit because this was important stuff. This was like itching at my sternum. This was itching at my soul. This was itching at my heart of hearts and putting me in a more productive mindset. So versus, wanting to drink and wanting to do all this shit and wanting to whore myself out because I was a train wreck. I was an emotional train wreck. Make no mistake. I was rough. It was rough for me. I fucked everything on two legs trying to get her out of me, right? I was doing a lot of drinking. I relapsed. I was craving things that I hadn't craved in a very, very long time. I was just in it was a turmoil. It was a wreck. And in that process, I very quickly learned you have to hold that mirror up to your face and be like, look, I'm a grown man. For me, I'm 29 years old. All of my relationships have failed up until this point. What am I doing wrong? Right? What am I doing wrong? And I'll tell you, one of the first answers that came to my immediate attention, one of the first big problems, and again, I agree with Jordan Peterson on this, and I'm paraphrasing, but when you pray, when you meditate, whatever the case is, whenever you ask the universe, hey, what the fuck is wrong with me, you better be prepared for a very honest answer, and you're not going to like it. Maybe you're a liar. Maybe you're a habitual liar. And you know that you fucking lie to people about dumb shit, Maybe you told your homies or, whatever that you're a veteran, and you're really not a veteran. Maybe you're telling people that, you went to college and you have some kind of degree, but you really didn't go to college and get no degree, right? Maybe you're just used to telling people white lies and not the full truth of things. I don't know, right? Maybe you're a liar. Maybe you have commitment issues, right? Maybe you know that you have serious problems committing, and you know in your heart of hearts that you tend to cut shit short long before it has a chance to blossom into something because you're scared internally. Most people have left you, and it's easier for you to just cause a problem so they'll leave you, or so you leave them. So that way when they do leave you, or when you do leave them, in that moment you go, aha! You left because I was in control, because I made you. I made you want to leave, or I left you. Aha! I cut myself short because I knew that you were going to leave anyways, because I'm kind of paranoid, and at least this time you leaving is my fault. I can blame me for once instead of everybody else. Maybe that's a complex you have. I don't know. But whatever it is, when you pray, when you meditate, when you ask the universe, what's wrong, you're going to get an answer. Or multiple, right? And this is one of the things that Jordan Peterson mentioned in a lot of the videos that I had just consumed up until that point, was that, you have some work to do. You have to clean your room, chap. You have to clean your room. You got laundry piled up in the corner. Put it away. You got to vacuum. You're stepping on shit going to the bathroom. Vacuum. So vacuum, right? You got dishes in that sink. That sink is fucking humming. It smells like shit when you walk Go do your fucking dishes, right? You know what's wrong with your house, so go do it. You know what's wrong with you, so fix it. I can't see my pee-pee when I get out of the shower, so go work out, you fat ass. I know I have problems paying attention. Okay, so if you really feel like you need medication, then go get on some medication to help pull yourself back into place where you know you need to be mentally, and or smoke some pot, and or write shit down. I'm terrible with memory. Look at it. Look. Do you see that? Okay. As someone who is on the spectrum, I have a shitty memory. I have a real shitty memory. So I keep at all times a notebook on my person now because I know I can't remember shit. I remember fuck all. So I, as a grown man, whether I'm out on dates, whether I'm, just doing some simple grocery shopping, whatever it is, I know one of my many problems is that I can't remember fuck all. So I keep a pen and paper on me because that helps alleviate me forgetting shit. Important shit, mind you. Things like children's birthdays or things like anniversaries or, it doesn't matter. Food, what was it? What the fuck did I need? God damn it, I wish I had written it down. And, well, you get to the grocery store and you're like, oh, that's what I needed, right? So I knew that was a problem, so I began to fix it. That was one problem. My other problem was being a simp, being a fucking loser, not having any self-esteem. What did I do? I worked out. I walked everywhere, a lot more than I had in a long time, okay? Every day I took my daughter, and this is something that I kind of learned to correlate into the rest of my life, is that, as someone who is ADHD and on the spectrum, you tend to avoid things that you don't like, and you do things that, your average person can do a lot of things and kind of grin and bear it. It's really difficult for us to grin and bear it with our mindsets. So you have to train your mind to do things that you don't like doing in a way that's going to be healthy for you. So, I never lived at the gym. I was never that type of guy. I was never a gym junkie, right? But, I don't know, maybe I can show you guys here. Okay. I don't work out on a regular basis as far as going to the gym and lifting weights and pumping iron and all that shit, but I do have this workout bench here, and I do sit-ups almost every morning. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't do sit-ups every morning. Almost every morning I do. Now, why? Because not being able to see my pee-pee bothers me as a grown man, right? Having these boobs bothers me. So it's a problem for me, so you work on it, right? Instead of going, oh, I'm depressed, I got anxiety, oh, where, where hurts. Okay, so fix it. Do something about it, right? You're sitting here crying. Congratulations, no one cares. You obviously don't care either, because if you did, you would be doing something about it. Oh, I'm always broke. Okay, then go get a second job. Oh, you really don't care about being broke that bad, because if you did, you'd go get a second job. You'd go get the skills to go make more money, right? So being a simp was a big one for me. So I had to do what? I had to change my mindset, and that was easier to do than, or that was harder to do than anything else, right? When you realize that a big bulk of your problems comes from the way that you're thinking, the longer you've been thinking a certain way, the harder it is to unthink it, right? The longer you've been, let's say you grew up a military brat or something, and you grew up in a very regimented home. When you meet a partner or a friend who's very unregimented, who's very go with the wind, who's very, we're just going to do whatever, whenever, that clashes with your personality and how you do things, because you're used to getting up, going to work, eating your breakfast, working out, doing whatever, X, Y, Z, and you're very regimented in lifestyle, right? And it's hard to unlearn that, or it's hard to even, what's the word I'm looking for? It's hard to pair with that, right? And vice versa. If you grew up very unregimented, when you meet someone who is, like myself now, I've had to become regimented, and it's hard for a lot of women to deal with me in a dating aspect now, not only because of my sexist points of views, but also because I wake up pretty early, and I have for quite some time, and not every morning, but most mornings. And that bothers a lot of chicks that come over and, want some yum-yum, whatever. But my lifestyle has to be what it is for my benefit, not anybody else's. So the hardest part for my mental, I don't want to call it mental health, but for my benefit, for my changing, was then changing my mindset from what I knew was as Western symbology, which is what a lot of us grew up in the 90s and probably some of the 80s, to a more regimented mindset, a much more I have to come first mindset, right? And that's a hard thing to do for a lot of people. When you grew up your whole life being a victim, when you grew up your whole life being anything, right? Your brain gets real accustomed to acting that way, right? I know a lot of people in the liberal communities who are constant victims because they've trained themselves to think, well, I'm a certain skin color, so I must be a victim. But have you really ever been a victim? Probably not. Probably not. No, unfortunately, you believe in what's called confirmation bias, so therefore whenever you see it, that's what you recognize it as, right? You've never really been a victim. You've never really been that guy or that girl, right? So changing your mindset is really, really difficult for, at least for me. It might be easy for a lot of people. Quitting smoking. What's the word I'm looking for here? Willpower, okay? I have the willpower to get up at 5 o'clock almost every morning and work out for an hour. But damn, I'm having a rough time with the willpower of just putting down the fucking smoking, right? So there was a lot to do there, and like I said, I came to two very large conclusions. One was that something had to give, and the other was that I was doing something very, very wrong, right? I wanted my ex back. That was the big one. How do I get my ex back? That's all I cared about. That's all I saw for miles and miles and miles. That's all I saw. How do I get her back? How do I get her back? And what am I doing wrong? I didn't like the answers that I got. Not even a little bit. The answer to the first is that you're not. Yeah, you're not. She's been dead set. When a woman, let me tell you, when a woman leaves, she's been thinking about it for at least several weeks, if not several months. When my ex left, she had been cheating. I know this almost for a fact, but she had been at least seeing the current boyfriend. I don't know. She had been seeing this dude for a lot longer than she let me believe, than she told me about. She had been very distant for several months. She was going over and staying at her mom's house a lot more often. She was going and seeing this new dude, saying that she was going to go stay at her cousin's house, whatever. That was a lie. She was going to go see. She was seeing the new dude, right? Spending time with him, sleeping with him, whatever. But you know when that distance begins to form in a relationship, right? And it became very evident, very clear that there was no getting her back, right? Despite my mind saying you can, I knew deep down I wasn't. But having that bait on the hook gave me something to bite onto, I guess, because that's what I needed at the time. I'm not going to lie to you, my reasons for my self-growth were completely selfish. I didn't want to be a better dad. I didn't care about being a better dad for my kid. That wasn't my motivation at the time. My motivation wasn't being strong for my child. My motivation was getting the woman I loved back, and that was as simple as that. It was night and day for me, very clear and easy. And, you know, as I've said earlier, obviously those goals have changed over the years, and that as they should, right? Your goals should move forward as you grow out of your little flower pot. You know, you grow up with this a little bit of soil, and then, you know, you got a little bit of plant here, and then all of a sudden, you start growing, and you grow, and you grow, and you grow. And, you know, you need more room than this to grow, so now you need real soil, right? Your goals should shift. Your attention span should shift, and you need to be growing. And I wanted to share that with people. Like, I mean, yeah, would making money be nice? Sure. I mean, I don't know if I could do this full time. I don't know if I have the attention span to be a content creator full time. Would the money be nice? Absolutely. But really, as someone who has a little bit of, and again, I use air quotes here, social anxiety, whatever you want to call it, as someone who has a learning disability, who has a hard time getting along with other people in a real life scenario because I have no filter and fuck you, I don't care. As someone with, as someone who can have a hard time getting along with other people, I like the idea of an inn. I was a Lord of the Rings fan growing up. Huge. Star Wars, huge. Nerd life, nerd everything, huge. Dungeons and Dragons, right? And the the prancing pony, right? Lord of the Rings. I'm sure most of you have seen it. You walk in, there's people drinking, there's people eating, this guy's feeding his fucking rat or whatever. Fireplace, people are getting warmed up, and there's a concept to an inn that doesn't exist in a bar, right? You go to a bar to grab a drink. You don't really go to a bar to go visit with buddies per se, right? That's not what a bar is there for. You go to a bar to get a drink or to pick up women. An inn is somewhere you go to stay, because inns are notorious for having rooms attached to them, right? Versus a bar, which usually has no rooms for rent or for sale or whatever. But an inn is somewhere where you stay for an amount of time because that's your home base. That's your little base of operation, let's say. And what do you do at an inn? You eat, you drink, you rest, and you shoot the shit with people who are going in the same direction or the opposite direction as you, right? So here at the tavern, my purpose, my goal, my direction is not to make any kind of money at all. My goal is to bring together a community of people who, like myself, may or may not have a hard time socializing, who may or may not have a hard time getting on with other people, who know that they have some improvement to do and don't quite know where to start doing it at, right? My goal here is to not only become a better streamer, and a better content creator for the people around me, but it's a base of operation not just for me as the innkeeper. Yeah, see what I did there? But it's also here for you, right? This inn is here for you as the traveler, as the old weary traveler. Sometimes you need to put your head down somewhere. Sometimes you need someone to talk to. Sometimes you need some direction on where to go next. And I'm not Gandalf the Grey. I'm not the all-wise and knowing. I'm not Cthulhu. I don't know and see all things. But I have seen and done a lot of things. I have seen and done a lot of things in my time. And while most of our greatest lessons are learned through pain, I do think there is a lot of advice to be had along the way. One simple piece of advice that I was given, in fact, very early on, was that free advice is worth the price you pay. Free advice, Ironbeard, is worth the price you pay, and fuck me, if I hadn't listened to that growing up, I'd be in a much different spot than I am right now. But unfortunately, due to my coping issues and attention span, that was never a piece of wisdom, a little chunk of wisdom I was able to grasp onto. Free advice is worth the price you pay. And I did pay that price very dearly over the course of my life. And here we are now. Here we are now, having learned a lot, right? Here we are, having been through so much and having no real outlet for it beyond my own self-improvement. And I am, and it is present, okay? For example, 3 years ago, and this is the part where I pat myself on the back because I am very proud of myself for my accomplishments. 3 years ago, the woman that you see in front of you, she left a bum. She left a fucking bum with limited income. I make very good money now. I probably make more than her and her boyfriend combined now. I don't know about right this moment, but when I was working at Right Stuff Foods back in the day, I'm training 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. I was making bank. I work my ass off now. I was lazy. Okay, so I was a bum when she left me. I'm no longer a bum. I work full time. I was lazy when she left me. I couldn't be bothered to walk down to the fucking gas station. I borrowed the car and drove down there, and it was 2 blocks down the fucking road. Right now, if I don't walk to the grocery store, I don't get food. I rely on absolutely nobody to get me anywhere. And I'm working on a license and a vehicle now currently. But she left a bum. I'm no longer a bum. She left a degenerate, a lazy ass. I'm no longer a degenerate, no longer lazy. Okay. She left someone with no spine. She left a man who was not about anything at all. And I am more clear now on my focus than I've ever been. Okay. I'll tell you, I there was one specific incident to go down that rabbit hole just a little bit. She had this girlfriend who was dating this ugly ogre fuck with, what are they called, viper piercing snake bites? I don't know what they're called. But this dude was a fucking ogre. He looked fucking ugly. He was tall as shit. He constantly wore greasy ass pants with his boot's tongue untucked out of him. He was never put together. He had a scraggly fucking beard. He had nothing, there was nothing. And I'm kind of scraggly too. I'm not gonna lie, but like I take the trimmers to myself, and nose trimmers and beard trimmers, keep myself up. But he didn't. Needless to say, this fucking bum that she somehow fell in love with and had a kid by, whatever. This dude, they came over one day, and we were all sitting on the backyard. This backyard, in fact, that you see in front of you. We were standing out there, and this, he's 6'2", 6'3", big fucking lumberjack. He snatched her phone out of her hand. And I was standing there smoking, and I just kind of looked at him. The ex was standing kind of to the right of me. Her girlfriend was like across from her on the other side of the garbage can. And fucking troll fuck was kind of walking around the yard, whatever. But they were chit-chatting, shooting the shit, whatever. We were outside smoking. And he had just, came up and snatched her phone. And for no particular reason other than being jovial, he held the phone up like, well, I don't have my phone, but he held the phone up like this, needless to say, hey, come get it, and she's, oh hell, I'm 5'11", 5'10", so she's like 5'7", 5'8". She's trying to jump up and, get her phone. And I remember that moment very clearly, because what I should have done was fucking smashed him in the face. Just no questions asked. He snatched her phone. I should have fucking just plowed him right in the gut and taken care of that. I should have. Looking back on that scenario now, that's what I should have done, but I didn't, because I was a beta. I was the bitch. I didn't have a backbone. I didn't stand for anything, right? I was like, that's your friend's boyfriend, whatever, you guys are just playing. I was very disassociated from that particular scenario, because that was kind of her friend and less my friend and more her friend kind of deal. And at the time, I had no backbone. I keep repeating it. It is what it is. I didn't stand for anything. So I just kind of stood there with my thumb up my ass and was like, oh, yeah, look at that. I guess you better try hard to get that, huh? That is not the man I am now. Not by any stretch of the imagination. My sister's boyfriend thing recently put hands on her, and she knows better than to bring him around the house or around me, because she knows when I see him, he's getting sparked on. Bar none. I have kind of tapped into those autistic ADHD tendencies for the betterment of myself rather than for the disability of myself and the excuses of myself. And that is, I see very few consequences in front of me when I see something that I want. And what I want is a backbone. What I want is a spine. What I want is to be known and stood for something, and nothing is going to stand in that way. And a part of who I've always been has been a bit of a white knight. And I mean a lot of bit by a little bit. I've always been a lot of bit of a white knight when it comes to women and kids. But she knows better, because when I see him, he's getting rocked immediately. And that's the attitude, that's the presence. And more than the attitude, because you can kind of fake attitude, but you can't fake presence. You can't fake the look in a man's eye, or a woman's eye for that matter. I lacked that backbone. I lacked that spine. Okay? That is not the man I am now. That's not the man she left. All right? I had no passive income. Right now I'm making $12 a year off of my stocks. I've invested a lot of money into Robinhood over the last 3 years. So now I technically have a passive income, and whoop-de-doo, it's a fucking $1 a month, Iron Beard. Look, bro, compared to 3 years ago, I wasn't making shit. Now I'm making, not only am I making a full-time paycheck, but I'm also making passive income, and it's only $12 a year, boo fucking who, but it's better than nothing. It's a start in the right direction. 3 years ago, I had nothing. 3 years later, I now have $12 a year. 3 years from now, what's that going to look like? Not including if I choose to invest more, right? Why? Because the things that you do every day compound. You go to work every day. You work out every morning. You make yourself dinner in your crock pot every morning before you go to work. The things that you do every day stop becoming little things that are minuscule parts of your personality and your being, and they start becoming more regular parts of your personality and being. They start becoming the things that shape you and form you into the person that you are. And next thing you know, in 3 years from now down the road, you're not even the same woman. You're not even the same man anymore. You're not the same person. Would you look at that? And that's what we aim to do here at the tavern. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to build a home and a community and a group of people who help each other, who need each other, who provide something for each other beyond a hey, howdy do. But those are Ironbeard's humble beginnings. Yeah, I started this channel on Facebook Live. And here we are, 3 years later. And we have a lot more followers, a lot more subscribers, a lot more than I had 3 years ago. And I'm blessed for it, really. Like, the guilds that I've been in WoW have been a huge help. My friends, my friend, the one that's really been there for me, good old Death Touch, through and through, man. I tell you what, I wouldn't be half where I am right now were it not for that man. Your friends are important, man. Your friends are important. The people who are always there for you are important. The people who make themselves a part of your life are important. The people who are always there through thick and thin, they're important, and that's what we aim to do here. I don't know you, and really I don't have to, because you're going to be back at the end. You have to have somewhere to eat, you have to have somewhere to rest, you have to have somewhere to recoup, and that's what we're here for. To give you a place to vent, to give you a place to talk, to give you some different perspective, and maybe to show you where some treasure's at. Maybe there's a dragon around here. Guess you'll have to ask later. Maybe I'll tell you. Maybe I won't. I hope you guys have a good week. I hope you guys have a good day. And I couldn't be more sincere about that. I wish I had been told more frequently growing up, especially in my later teenage years, that I mattered, that I was worth something, that I was worth the conversation with, that I had some kind of purpose beyond working and going to school. You're here because you're looking for a step in the right direction. And here we are. We're taking it together. I don't know all things. I don't know most things, in fact, truthfully. Truthfully, I don't know most things. But what I do know are the things that I've been through and the things that I've seen with my own eyes and the things that I've seen success with. And we'll get into those together. We'll help put you in the right direction. We'll talk about the things that you need to talk about. And we'll get you going in the right direction, if that's what you want. If you just want somewhere to cry to and vent, hey, Watch your back. If you need more than that, give me a knock. We'll be here. By the way, the fireplace is hot. Kick your feet up.